segregation. So what we're going to do is skip those until she gets here. And we're going to start with number 4, the Water Safety Improvement Plan. And Tim, I think you and Stacy just wanted to give us an update where we're at with our large meter, and then where we're going to proceed next year with our residential, and then move down the line from there with our projects. So Jim, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Greg. We will go forward with item number 4 is Water System Improvement Plan. Kind of interesting, you know, Councilman Davis and I were just talking, and I think the first meeting, of course, we had the town hall meeting on water rates and the water system, and I think one of the things that came out of that meeting shortly thereafter was the water system improvement plan. So without further ado, Stacy and Gary, our large meter program, I think we had committed to have those meters ordered, that project completed, done, get it done this year. Where do we stand on that? I think we either have one outstanding or not. So,
we have one person, Ben Wade of Christ the King, which is up there on Laybell, the old Roosevelt School. I'm still attempting to contact him. Yeah, I've driven by the site, and it doesn't look like anything's going on in there.
well, I think
That's what I mentioned to Tim earlier, that John Shanley and Lindsay Mon, our utility billing manager, they actually went there and they confirmed that it's vacant. It's just storing stuff there. If there's just one hose that only in the summer the water some flowers or something in the back. So eventually there will be a need for however we're metering that hose, but it's not going to be required. You won't need to change out whole meter for that. We might just need to get the Neptune technology on the hose, however we're metering that.
Does he pay his bills every month?
Yeah, it's up to
paid
date.
in full? Okay. So that's the only one.
Yeah,
So
so I would
vacant-
essentially say that we're complete.
I suppose when
If
the
there's
use
been
goes
vacant,
in.
yeah, if there's a vacant property or somebody has a building for sale and there's no water account there, then we didn't force that customer to switch out their meter, but the new person, whoever buys that building, will have to switch out that meter to get a water account. So, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, we're done with the purchasing. The final parts to that need a couple of touches on are John Shanley's services to actually go by and confirm that they've actually done the install. A lot of people chose to use, their own plumbers outside of Fort Steuben, if whoever they normally use for their maintenance. So we just need to confirm that they actually installed them.
All right. So, Mr. Chairman and Council, I'm pleased to report that we have completed that project. They are all of the meters that can be ordered have been ordered, and as Stacy mentioned, we'll continue to have our plumbing inspector following up with those large commercial customers. And I will, one of the things that I would like to make certain that we do, because it's very important for us to monitor the results, I would encourage the Finance Department, in particular Water and Sewer Billing, to prepare a report on the large meters and see what has been the impact on revenue from that activity. And I would suppose that we would do that on a quarterly basis, and we will be looking at our first report at the end of the first quarter of 2015. I'd be happy to answer any questions, but I think we're there.
Yeah, first of all, then I would go beyond that really, is I just wanted to thank you, your staff, Stacy, for all your hard work and diligence in getting this done. I know this has been a big project. You came in and they got handed that, and we didn't have any done. many in, many ordered, and you worked diligently to get this done. So I really appreciate the efforts of your team, Tim, Stacy, you guys did a wonderful job. Young and Willie.
Tim, when you, I don't want to bother her, because I gave her enough work to do. Beginning of next year, just give me a list of all the federal bills, water bills that we have that owe us. We have a big turnover down at the housing authority, we got new people down there, got new enthusiasm. So I want to make sure each and every one of those bills, we've had problems in the past, collected them. So the first of the year, I've already gave notice that we're coming after them. They will pay their bills, they're collected, but they will move their dollars. And I got the people to do the work. That's good news. So when you hire your new finance director, Stacy's too busy right now.
Thank you.
Well,
I just want to just reiterate when I brought this to light about 2-3 years ago, there were, I think, 4 or 5 HUD housing projects, authorities that their meters weren't working since 2010. I think one was like maybe 2009. And I don't know, is anybody from Neptune here? No, okay. So I think I forget when I was first elected, maybe 2011. There was nothing being done. We were just estimating their cost. Okay, so they have a 72-unit building, and you're not paying the water. You don't care if the water's running. You don't care if the toilet's running. You don't care if you got a drip in your faucet because you're not paying the bill. And that was one of the reasons why I brought this up. So I just hope that we continue to be diligent and watch what's going on with these programs. And y'all just brought it up, Mr. DeLoretto brought it up. And I think we need to be very diligent and watch that so it doesn't happen again, and watch these meters so they don't get out of hand again.
Take it to the bank, they'll be taken care of the first of the year. Like a hound dog.
I would agree 100%, Councilman Paul and Councilman DeLoretto, and we will continue to do that. And I appreciate Councilman Metcalf, your comments. I think that in reality, certainly most of the I think the credit for the effort goes to Director Williams and her department, and also I think she would also acknowledge, I think a key was, and I think council's support was particularly instrumental in this, but bringing on our water and sewer billing manager. We ultimately, we had her work on this, Lindsay Mont, and she's done a fabulous job on that. So I might have given a little focus, but it really was the finance department, and in particular water and sewer billing, that had that focus. And I think Councilman Paul would take the keep on top of these kind of things. And fortunately, we have the staff to do that, and we're going to hopefully have that in the future as well. But I appreciate the comments.
Thank you.
anything else on the large meters? Rob?
I want to go back to that, the old Roosevelt School. That's a church, supposed to be a church, right? Is that what that is?
I'm not sure. If you give me the address, I can.
Well, where'd you say, the large meter that we only have one person that didn't come into compliance?
Oh, it is an old church. Gary, you might know more.
Yeah, that's the old Roosevelt School?
Ben Wade, they got it,
First
I
the
believe they got it
Kings.
rezoned to be a church.
Yeah, we did that.
Yeah, we,
Yeah,
but you know what, nothing's happened. I don't think he has any money to.
So, I mean, it's never been operational. I guess what I'm getting at is, does he have a water bill there?
Yeah, and he's paying it monthly.
Yes, but it's just like for a sprinkler, essentially, like a hose. That's it. It's
Is it
not
right?
like a monthly bill, but it is. He does get a monthly bill when he's not technically in vacation mode, so it's seasonal, basically. But it is a commercial property, so that's how it ended up on the commercial property list.
It's a big building.
What
what makes him different than anybody else having a water meter? We sent out how many notices to how many people? 99, was it 99? 99?
Yeah.
What makes him different than anybody else?
191, I think it was.
If everybody else complied, why isn't he maybe comply whether it's vacant or not? Because he's got water going there. I mean,
We can turn it off.
Yeah, we can turn off his hose. I was just stating that as far as our commercial meter change out, it's not necessarily a meter that needs changed. I think a hose is metered separately. It's not.
because I don't want to be, I don't want the city to be in a position, and I surely don't, that we don't, I want to do it for everybody.
Right.
You let this one do this, but you,
Hey, Bob, but I think in his case, he doesn't have water going
No.
into his building.
There's not
See?
a typical water
So-
meter
So
there.
when somebody comes in to turn water on in that building, they'll have to
Well, the
get,
water shut off to the building, he has a separate thing for the sprinkler, doesn't he?
Yes, that's what
Building
I'm
doesn't have
saying.
water service.
It's not a
Oh,
giant
okay.
meter. There's no meter
Yeah.
there.
But
So in other words, his water bill is for that sprinkler, not for
Only,
that building.
that's it.
Okay.
Which the sprinkler's on vacation mode right now, so he's not even,
Okay, I got you.
there's just storage in the building.
All right. I thought the water was on to the building.
no.
Yeah, no, he ended up on our list because it is a commercial building, it's a very large building, like you said, and the meter is big, so it ended up on the higher priority list as far as, but now we look at the usage, it's not.
Okay, I understand.
Not
I misunderstood you. Thank you.
But that begs the point that Bob's making is, should that become in service for a church or another commercial business, that water cannot be turned on until that is in compliance.
I suppose they wouldn't get an occupancy.
Our people have to go and drop off a meter, a water meter, which does not exist.
All right. Yes, Mike?
I guess I'm confused on how the sprinkler's working. If it's not going through a water meter? I mean, it's gotta be going through
It's
something.
metered, but not through a large water meter.
It's not a large.
It's not a large meter.
Good point, though.
Okay, residential meters,
Yes.
how are we ready to rock and roll with that?
Yeah, had a very, I would say, productive meeting with Neptune, maybe about 2 weeks ago. I don't know if council got a schedule, Stacy.
No, I did not provide the schedule because the schedule is still being changed as we work out our logistics. They provided us a tentative schedule, but I didn't want to pass it out because after looking at it a little closer, there still needs to be some changes. We are on par though, as far as right now, we're working on drafting up the letters, reviewing the letters, we're working on, they'll be going out the first week of January. The notices in which then we'll ask the residents to contact, Neptune has they're gonna be set up in our public works building. There's gonna be a separate phone line, just dedicated to get our residents phone calls and schedule appointments. So it should be very smooth. There's one person dedicated to handling these calls, scheduling appointments. It's going to be a rollout by neighborhood, depending on how the coding is for your water account. So it's going to gradually sweep through the city to replace the water meters.
And I think in general, they provided us with the schedule. It sounds like it's still in flux a little bit.
It is.
Which is understandable, but I know at that time they had divided the city into five sections, I believe, and they're going to attempt within each of those to install 1,438 meters, residential meters within each section. So if you do the math, and it's about 7,000 or so, I think. Total residential meters. I know that they had projected, committee and council, that it would take somewhere about 6 months or so, 6-7 months, I think, to get it done. So our goal is to get this done sometime near the end of the second quarter or beginning of the third quarter of this year. And again, we'll do the same thing with reporting on on what impact that's had each quarter. And once we get them installed the next quarter, we'll need to assess, just what the impact has been. And that will help us, I think, greatly determine where we go with our water fund and what the status of that is. So all signs that I see look positive. With any residential meter program, communications is the most important thing, and coordinating with the residents, and I think that Neptune is well versed in those activities, and I wouldn't anticipate anything less than a very successful project. It's our expectations, and that's what we'll be expecting.
I hope the same vigor that Stacy and her team did when she came in with the large meter, that we attack the residential and stick to that schedule, because I think, like you said, it could be very accretive to the water fund, and it'll make our decisions next year, a lot more easier, I think. Well,
And with that smart bill that Stacy implemented, you can put on that bill that we need you to contact us within a 3-month period, which is another great thing you did. I'm gonna miss you. Another great thing that she had accomplished while she was here, in a short time she was here. And you can get out things to the customer and say, hey, we need to get a hold of you within the next 4 months, 2 months, one week, whatever that might be.
Yeah, they got to be a trend school.
Yes. Now, okay, I got one question. I had one installed in my own house myself. We're going to go with a brand new one after that also, in case other people have the same question, say, I just got one installed. Or is that something?
All the meters, and Chuck may be able to speak more to this, but to my knowledge, any meter that's been installed in the last, 4 years, I think, they're all the Neptune meters.
Oh, they're all new, so what I
Yes,
have
they're all the
this
new
June
meters.
is all the same?
Yes.
Okay, so I can tell them what's going on.
We've been buying our inventory from
Okay.
Neptune, anticipating this project, and
Okay.
we've actually bought the latest technology this past year, so they'll probably switch out maybe the electronics on it, because there is a device that reads, I don't know where it's at exactly, but it is on there somewhere, so they may just switch out that, but the meter will be good.
Okay, and then eventually, once we're done with the GIS, is that what it's called? Like GIS? You can, one day, if someone's, doesn't pay the water bill, we can shut it off through a computer. That's eventually down the road. Isn't that how this all was worked out?
I don't know to speak to that part.
Isn't that what the GIS was all about?
I do know
The
you,
GIS? Maybe I'm wrong, I don't know.
The GIS is for us to go out there and locate where those curb boxes are at.
Correct.
We're trying to locate all those curb boxes. Now, that's easier said than done. There's some curb boxes we can find, there's others that we can't.
Right.
I'm not familiar with able to shut off their, I think that's something that's
That was
done.
something that
I think that's the next step.
spoke
We
about.
are going to be able to track leaks, though. We'll be able to identify on the computer system if you have a leak in your house. I do know that.
Yes.
I'm not certain how that works, but
Okay.
I do know that now we can help the customer better detect leaks.
But okay, maybe I,
No,
but it was something.
Willie's absolutely right, if I can chime in.
I am.
Yeah.
That's one of the most important parts of this program, I think, to him and to me and a couple other people on council. I said, when it started, was that exactly that? When we have an issue with my neighbor, you can hit a couple buttons and it's done.
A remote.
Yes, correct. It's supposed to be, and we even talked about where we're gonna place the towers. We've even had that discussion with Neptune.
Okay.
Maybe you're just not up on that part of it.
We'll follow up with that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
please.
and
That was
certain
one of
towers,
the
I think
reasons
we have
why
to-
we went this way.
I think we have to put 4 towers throughout the town.
Yes, and that's true. Now that will be starting very soon. They're working on that part where at some point they will be able to have a whole map of our system, be able to tell you different things about different houses. There is a way that I do know they can detect if you're jumping it. There's an error that'll throw, so if you're bypassing the meter, those sorts of things pop up immediately.
to add Kenny, you're correct on that, and also there was the fact that you as residents, say you're out of town on vacation.
Correct.
You could get on your computer and you could check, and you could say, oh my God, my water's running, and then you could call the city and say, listen, I got an issue, and that could be then taken care of. So that has been part of the discussions, and Chuck, that goes back to 2010, and that was in booklets that was passed out in discussions with the utility committee back then, that you could do that. So that's been 4 years in discussions.
No, I mean, I've had some hand in this to some degree or another over the last 4 years. We do need to verify, but my recollection of our last meeting with Neptune, or last meetings, I should say, was that the automatic shut-off where you could hit a button is not there because it was decided not to do it because of the expense, and then only to do it with those things, those customers that we're having problems with, so that we don't have the massive upfront costs. That, like I said, we'll have to double check, make sure I'm right.
Double check. Administration can double check.
That's
for
my
us.
recollection.
Find out the cost.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's not what,
Sounds like it's something we want to do.
yeah.
That's why we.
That's
And
a
we got-
budget.
and we got the other costs coming. But, let's talk to Neptune, figure out what,
And we need them at a council meeting here in a couple weeks.
They will be.
They will.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Moving on, I know Mr. Dolek's here with some maps for us, and I'm just going to lump in the Scioto Drive, University of Harbor, Loretto, St. Charles, water safety improvement plan projects.
I think Chuck, you were working on Scioto.
I think it's over that side.
Update.
I can do that. Yeah, I can do that. They started, Saturday they started last, let me see, they started on Monday the 8th. There's about 600 linear feet of water line that's installed. It's tied into the existing line. It was pressure tested today and the test passed. They took a sample of the water and it's at a private laboratory. It's being tested, so it's safe for human consumption. We should have that back by probably tomorrow, I'm thinking. Tomorrow. And then there's the next phase, what they'll do is there's 3 residential services that need tied into the new line. And then there's one large 6-inch for the apartment complex that needs tied in. They can probably do that either Wednesday, Thursday, or Thursday, Friday. And then next week, or at the end of this week, they'll terminate the existing line, cut and cap that line, and then eventually all the water will be flowing through the new line. There will be some restoration work that unfortunately will need to be done next year, just due to the weather situation with yard restorations. As long as the weather keeps up, we'll be able to put the concrete drives back in.
Great.
And there was a
Council's
address one of our most
You're
chronic
okay.
water line breaks and leaks.
Yes. it is.
Scioto's not been as high as others, but the frequency is starting to
Yes.
get it. And we all remember Chuck showing us the line.
Right.
Deteriorated.
I mean, we've even had, during the course of the construction of this line, we think there's probably an old sleeve that's leaking underground that basically was starting to fill some of the trenching while they were putting in the new line. So without a doubt, this is well timed.
Yeah, it's definitely leaking. So, the other project that we just wanted-
Before you go on real quick, Councilman Davis had a,
My question was, were there any complications? This is our second, probably major water line restoration. Were there any, I think Mr. Paul was, because of the subsidence we had with the ground before in that area.
No,
Smooth.
everything was smooth. There's actually a couple hiccups you always have with contractors, but that's normal. The groundwater was coming in. Not the groundwater, but the other line was leaking. The existing line was leaking, but no, everything went pretty good. I don't believe we had any issues.
Everything's been going pretty smooth.
Yeah.
I second that.
Like Wayne Investor?
Point of this, but I passed out a small drawing highlighted. The same thing is up here. Just to give you a little history on the project. Bids were opened up on November the 5th. We had, my engineer's estimate was $328,000. We had numbers come in from anywhere from $359 all the way down to $303. The 303 was accompanied by the name of SET Incorporated out of Lowellville, Ohio. We reviewed their references and all the references checked out. They've done good work. They actually have never worked for the city before. They We awarded the contract probably November the 11th. It's awarded with an award letter or an award email. Before we can sign contract documents, we have to get a notice to proceed approved through the Ohio Public Works Commission, because if you recall, we have a $60,000 grant through the OPWC, and before we can enter into any contract, we need to receive a notice to proceed from them. We received that the first week of December. If everything goes well, we have a pre-construction meeting set up on January the 7th, and the contractor will, as soon as I put the purchase orders in at the beginning of next year, the contractor will enter into a contract probably on January the 7th or the 8th. Just a quick update on the project. Right now, there's currently 1.25-inch line servicing 26, 28 parcels. It's kind of scatterbrained through here. We're going to put a new 6-inch service line in, loop it down and around. It looks like the contractor does not want to do an open cut, which means dig the road up and have trenched everywhere. What he plans on doing is directional drill, dig a hole in one area, and then push the pipe through. And he will have so many little holes in certain areas just to make sure the pipe's coming through correctly and maybe avoiding utilities. It'll also have little cuts where we have to put the service connections in. We sent out construction notices that this project was coming back in last December of 13. We told them it was going to start in July. The project ran into a few hiccups due to the fact that we had to get an EPA permit, which we knew about. The easements took a little bit longer to get. So now we're looking at to start maybe beginning of February, mid-February. But just some of the issues, back up just a few weeks ago, we also sent out another construction notice of this upcoming project again on December 5th that went out to all the residents. Some of the hiccups that we're probably going to run into, and one that's going to get corrected because the homeowner contacted me, they own a couple properties here, is you're going to have a house tied off of another house. And that's not permitted. So what's going to happen is, I think the water line kind of runs to this house right here, and I think this house kind of taps off their service. So we're going to meet this individual out there the day after Christmas and kind of give him some instruction on where to run his new service, so we can just grab it and tie right in. Some of the other issues that we possibly could run into is some of these houses we're just not sure. So for example, let's just say this house down here has a service line that runs way up over into here and ties in. Well, that's not going to be permitted because in accordance with our regulations, their service has to come up perpendicular to the front of the property, or at least to the side of the property. You can't run up through somebody's side yard. So for example, we're going to put the new service line in here and a new curb box, and it's the homeowner's responsibility to bring that line and replumb it down into our box. At a certain period of time, you'll have water running through both of these lines, but not a long period of time. So letters have been sent out. The services to these homes are their responsibility. We will try to tie these homes in if we can find the service and we're able to tie that in. But if not, it's going to be the homeowner's responsibility to tie these homes in. Any questions?
When do you figure it would be done, Mike?
I got a mid-June completion date on it. If everything goes well, it will not take that long. It's just weather dependent. Greg asked about the Loretta Drive project. Those plans are 60% complete. Once we get a little bit better of an engineer's estimate, we'll sit down with finance and Tim and discuss funding. The only other one that I did start is, I didn't start it yet, but I did meet with a consultant the other day, and we took a look at Aberdeen, Dryden, and the East Carlton area. That's another high one on the list, and that's a huge project, and I'm getting an engineering proposal to do some design work on that. And I should have that by beginning of January.
What did you talk about Harvard?
Harvard is complete. Harvard is 100% complete. There's some punch list stuff that we need to do. It's by no means complete. There's restoration work that has to be done. And we're looking in, one individual stating that the yard is a little wet around where we did the water line tying. We're doing a little bit more investigation into that. But overall, that project went really well. Just amazes you how some lines are actually run here through. and that's it. We do, I guess, the marina project. The state's bringing the water line down so far, and then we were going to extend that further. I do have an engineering consultant fee sitting on my desk that I need to review, and once I'm done, I'll review it with Tim, and hopefully we can make a decision after that.
Yeah, Mike, I want to go back to that harbor thing. Are we talking, that where the yard was off, is at the bottom of the hill there?
The bottom of the hill, this is, yes.
I talked to her today, she was very happy that you guys came back up there and corrected those things that we had talked about.
Right.
The little patch there and everything. She said that she never had the water problem, but she did say that she had talked to, I think it was you, she had talked to somebody in the city. And,
Sweet young boy. Sweet young boy.
they said it was a nice guy, so I was thrown off by that. No, seriously, she said that you told her that you was working with her, and she was very happy.
Right. That was a difficult tie-in. That line going down through there was 11 feet deep. And it is tied in, and her yard is a little wet. We did do some sampling up there. We actually took a syringe up the other day and pulled it out of the ground, and we took it up and tested it. It did not test for chlorine. I need to look at it a little bit more with Chuck's guys, maybe do some listening out there. So that's where we're at with that. Overall, the project went really well.
Thank you, Mike. Moving on, the last bullet point on number 4, and then we'll jump back to the top of the agenda. Our Fire Chief Capaldi is here, and anything you have just on the fire hydrant repair and replacement program at this point, anything where you're at on your end going from middle of town to the west end, et cetera.
Okay. Well, we completed as much of the testing as we could get done this year. We got everything from Hollywood Boulevard to the west end of town. The only 2 neighborhoods we didn't get was Braybarton Boulevard and Parkdale, where they were doing, one was a water line project and one was a street project. So those are the only 2 neighborhoods we didn't do. I have my completed results that I was going to give to Chuck, and he's basically handling all the replacement issues now. And when they replace something, they're letting me know, and I'm updating the list. So those 2 neighborhoods probably take 2 days in the spring, and we'll be done with everything. And then everything else is on Chuck's side on the replacement and repair.
Thank you, Chief.
Chuck, our goal was 12 hydrants this year.
We got 13, sir. We have 13. Basically, just from November 25th to now, we've actually done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the guys have been really getting after it, getting these hydrants replaced. We got it 5th and Slack, 2547 Chestnut, Edgar Avenue, Logan and North 6th, St. Charles Drive, and T27 North 4th, just the one you found that was leaking. So all of those are completed, and then we'll have 2 additional as a part of the Scioto Drive water line replacement project. One would be at Scioto and Country Club Drive and Scioto and Pine Valley Drive. So those will also be doing as part of this project.
So we'll be at around 15.
It'll be a total of 15 units.
How many's left, Chuck? How many's left? How many's left? Approximately.
There's a lot, and I haven't seen his list yet, so I'll have to go ahead and get back to you on that. I
The
haven't seen
chief
his
keeps
list.
adding to it.
Yeah, I haven't called you, so I just want to.
No, we're going to take a more aggressive stance on things in the coming years. So the thing is I believe we can definitely exceed our goal of 12, but I don't want to go ahead and overstate either.
Yeah, I
So
just want to know.
Carly, you have a ballpark number?
But there's at least 40 that are flat out of service now. And then there's a bunch of other ones that have certain deficiencies, but they're operational. But you also got to remember that's out of about 800 hydrants. So it's about 10%. And we're probably, with the ones he replaced, we're probably closer to 7%.
Thank you.
Good job, Chuck.
Okay, gentlemen, ladies, we'll go ahead and move up to number 2. The JB Green Team Solid Waste Authority, the 2015-2029 management plan update. Mayor and Tim, myself, and Bob met with several members, try to come up with some bit of an idea of how we could actually do something that would be positive for the city of Steubenville. Tim has emailed everybody a plan. Our goal tonight is just basically, we have to click here to answer any questions, and then we have a Christmas break coming up and attack this issue at some point in January is the goal. But I'd like to at least council have any initial questions on what they've read. And Tim, I'm actually going to start with you.
All right, thank you, Greg. As I pointed out in the email, and I think it's pretty clear as the Solid Waste Authority plan was going forward, obviously a number of communities chose not to support the original plan. I think the realization, we kind of all came to the realization at different times, I think, but ultimately together that we needed to have additional discussions, negotiations, if you will. Obviously, the city had some concerns with the original plan. Certainly, the potential of the designation fees, if that were to be adopted in the plan, that those could be increased above $2 per ton level by a simple majority of the board, the solid waste board. Essentially, the city losing its veto power. We all felt, and I believe rightly so, that this potential result was unacceptable. Certainly, the proposed increase in fees, we stated on numerous occasions that we felt that there was no commensurate value or increase in value or services that the city could identify that would be part of that. And that also was unacceptable situation. And then finally, the plan is a 15-year plan. That is a significant amount of time. As discussions went on, it seemed clear that we were concerned that with that length of time, should there be some ability to go back and revisit the plan. And I'm pleased to say with each one of these areas, through some frank and difficult discussions, that we were able to have a modified plan. The original plan was modified. It does, in the areas that I pointed out in the email, addresses, language has been changed and in certain places significantly to address those concerns that I mentioned. I think one of the important things that the new plan or proposed revised plan addresses where it didn't in the past was potentially the support of the green team for bulk pickup. I think that is, and we all have mentioned it perhaps in one time or another, numerous occasions, and have heard from our residents that bulk pickup is a service that is valued by our residents, certainly valued by the city, and can make a very positive impact in the community. So I know that there were other concerns that were voiced. Those probably are concerns that aren't best dealt with in the plan or in revising the plan. But I think that the authority will be dealing with in the future. And so I certainly want to thank the mayor and Councilman Metcalf and Director Baird and also the Solid Waste Authority board members that met with us and worked through this, and also Executive Director, our Executive Director Meyer on this with Solid Waste Authority for his efforts. I know it wasn't easy, but I believe there's been significant movement from where the original plan was, and that is the plan that is back to the utility committee once again for your reflection and whether to go forward with this plan or not. I think we're at the point where we would either go forward with this plan or the modified plan, or I think we would probably be looking at the Environmental Protection Agency writing the plan sometime after April of next year. But I'd be happy to answer any questions, and we are fortunate to have Mr. Myers here today as well to answer any questions that you may be able to pose to him.
Joe?
$2 fee, who's gonna pay that? Does the citizens pay that, or our sanitation department pay it?
Bob, you want to grab a hold of that one, and maybe Cliff can explain
Who's
the
gonna pay the
designation
$2?
fees?
Mr. Leoretto, it's $2 a ton.
A ton.
It will be billed to the city. The sanitation fund would have to absorb that increase. For example, if we generate 10,000 tons of waste, we would be charged $20,000 annually. However, don't forget that sanitation fund directly is, I should say, is created by our citizens.
Right.
So they'll actually be paying, to answer your question, but the city would pay the bulk amount, and then we'll have to reflect on that.
In other words, there'll be no additional taxes at this time.
Not
No.
unless
No.
council
No.
implements, council has you can implement an increase in sanitation. However, we do know that the waste that is being generated
Right.
will cost our enterprise fund, the sanitation fund. We're estimating $20,000 annually or thereabouts. So there will be an impact. As long as our enterprise fund could continue to absorb that, the city council won't have to consider a rate increase, but the day will come ultimately that it may have an impact to that enterprise fund.
It says 15 years, I mean, we can't get out of the contract for 15 years.
Well,
I know the plan's for 15
Oh,
years.
okay.
and that's where I might jump in a little
5
bit.
years.
The tax, the $12.54 per parcel, improved parcel, is in place for 2015. If the plan is adopted in its current state, it is forecast that that tax will be reduced in 2016. If you follow me, Cliff, or I'm going off the rails. And the reason would be the revenue that would be generated from drill cutting waste. And I think the forecast, Councilman DiLoretto, would be that would go down into the $5 range, the tax. It would not take the place or reduce taxes to zero, correct?
No.
But in the $5 range, and then the other point, again, after 5 years, yes, I think, and I think in particular, if we're finding that the drill cutting waste revenues are not meeting projections, I think that 5 years is critical, and that we do need to revisit the plan. Cliff, if you could expand on that, that would be wonderful.
The taxes were put in assessment this year, be recovered next year, 2015. We can't make a change to that to reduce those until 2015, September 2015. At that point, based on projections, which we believe are low, but want to do it very conservatively, we believe that we could reduce the taxes down to 5.60. And that would take place in September of 2015 or 2016. Okay.
And, if the revenues, if those projections are met, then the impact on the city's sanitation fund should be minimal, should be right at the $2 or lower. If those drill cutting revenues are not met, then that's why we would revisit the plan.
Okay, two things, Tim. The $2 per ton, one thing we have in there is they cannot just, or raise it, above 2. We have that veto power still, that's part in there. The second thing is I think having a low forecast is a good way to go. With oil prices dropping to where they're dropping, one of the things that's going to happen is, the glut of supply has got to be met by demand. So the supply, what's going to happen is the fracking industry is going to slow down their production. Actually, take your goal of the drill cutting, and they're going to slow down. So having a low forecast, probably for the next couple of years, will be actually very important to look at, because you will see a slowdown in production in the fracking industry right now, based off of where oil prices are in the supply and demand equation. Okay.
I'd like to know how many municipalities will be affected by the $2 designation fee
Anyone
that doesn't use Apex, is that the way?
That's correct.
So what is the number? Is it just the city of Steubenville at this point?
No, there are other communities as well. There are some communities that are on the west side of Belmont. They take it over to a transfer station over another county. They would have the same effect. It's just anyone that does not dispose of their materials within the 2-county area already.
And the second question that I have is the Solid Waste Authority a program that the city of Steubenville has to use? Do we have to take advantage of their services, or because we have a healthy sanitation department, and I have been trying, and I apologize to Mr. Barrett again, because I think between two of us, we have some ideas of how we can start programs ourselves in the city, but do we have to use their services? The city of Steubenville.
We are required by the state to provide the services for the 2-county area. That's by statute. If the Steubenville chooses to do some of the services themselves, they're welcome to do that. They're available for you. They know it's going to make you do it, and it's not. It's just that the state requires that we have to have those services available for the entire Boy Scouts, for the 140,000 people that are in the 2-county area.
So then we would still be charged. I mean, if we did our own programs, we would still be paying the Solid Waste Authority whatever we have to pay them. I guess that's my.
Correct.
So no matter what, so we are forced by state statute, that's what it is, we are forced to use your services. I'm just asking the question.
That's my understanding.
Thank you. That's all.
Well,
I have one. Cliff, the last time we discussed this, is the treasurer going to, the county treasurer going to assess that other fee? Remember, it was like $12.54, then they were going to add
The auditor's office.
the auditor's office, I'm sorry, the treasurer's auditor's office. Is that going to be in effect too, that $12.54, and then I think it brought it up to 91 cents?
To 12.
There's a processing fee which we have nothing to do with.
Processing fee, that's correct.
That fee is assessed on top of the 12.50.
So that's still going to affect the $12.54?
Yes. We have nothing to do with it. That's.
I understand that, I understand that, I understand.
12.90.
And I think the last time I brought it up, it offended somebody. And I'm sorry, I have not met with seeing that gentleman since, but I guess I owe him an apology. But yes, that was one of the things I had asked last time. All right.
Let me also point out to the council, according to the revised code, the plan will come up for review in 5 years, and it will go through the ratification process as well.
correct.
That's an important part.
Well, that was one of the big part of the discussions, was 15 years was too long.
And with the Solid Waste Authority agreeing in our negotiations to assist the city of Steubenville with the bulk pickup, We're hoping to improve that service and maybe even do it more often. The details I know we're going to be up to the administrator, Mr. Bolin, and our sanitation director, Mr. Beer, to work out some of the details to be included in that if it's adopted and approved by Steubenville.
Yeah, correct on that, because we wanted to go in and get something of value. We've talked as a council about increasing, cleaning up our city, increasing those bulk pickups. So that was part of the value that we wanted for our dollars. And in those discussions, that's been discussed that will happen. And again, based off of your negotiations on when they could be done. Go ahead. For this, Angie, is for council to spend some time to document what we sent here. I'm not sure how many members of council, plus the committee, had a chance to really thoroughly review it. I would like you guys to take some time while we have a couple-week break to thoroughly review this document. We will be coming back in with the utilities meeting in January, and we will then, this will be a resolution. We will sunshine it once January comes, discuss it, and then put it to vote in January. We don't have, we have a lot of time right now until the end of March, but I think, January we should give the authority at least an idea of where we stand. I do know some communities that have already voted on, either on it for or against it at this point.
Everyone that has already voted will have to re-vote again. No
Everyone
matter
has
which
to-
way they went, they have to vote again.
After we get done, or based off of this?
Right now, we're in a 30-day comment period.
Okay.
So when that period is over, on the 12th of January, there will be a public hearing. Following the public hearing will be a board meeting of the Solid Waste Authority, and they will then look at any comments that came out of the comment period or from the public hearing, and based upon those results, they will adopt then the plan that you're reading parts of it right now. Okay. At that point, that's when the new packets will go out to every political subdivision, the same that they got the last time. They'll have to start over as if they've never voted.
Actually, we'll probably do this more into February, but, we'll wait to hear back. Your board meeting after the public hearing on the 12th is when? When is the board meeting in January?
Same day.
Same day. Okay, so then we should have some bit of information by late January, you would expect us?
It's, well, the 12th is when the board will vote to do the adoption. And then, as I said, they'll be, within a matter of a couple of days, we'll be sending out the packets.
Okay.
Okay, I got some concerns and I got some questions. We don't want to wait. I want to take all the time right today. But I want to do what's good for the citizens, make sure it's cost effective. I don't want to see any taxes go on our citizens or our sanitation fund go down. There's no open mind, so I just want the fact that as time goes on.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions on this? This will be in the January, more discussions specifically in the January utilities meeting. Another subject that's actually going to come up here when we start the new year is dealing with aggregation, and we've had a packet of information also emailed to us from our city manager. So Tim, I would like for you to attack this. We will have an official from Public Utilities Commissions coming in on the 6th, and Mayor, if you don't mind, I'd like to have him under our committee reports on the 6th of January during the regular meeting, do a presentation on this. So here's some more homework, council members, over Christmas break to review. It'll be done during the regular meeting, so that way the public comment could also be handled at a time with that officer here.
I'm sorry, who did you say made the presentation?
Now, an official from the Public Utilities Commission. Tim?
Yes, Greg, I'll try to make my comments brief. Thank you. I think, and I would request that council look at and review the information that my office sent out on aggregation. in a nutshell, it's allowing residents to choose electric and/or gas supplier and become part of a larger buying group with this type of buying power, theoretically. And I think it's been realized in other communities that there's been a cost savings, sometimes significant, to residents on their utility bills. There are two ways to approach it. One is opt-in aggregation. It's a program that permits each resident to sign up individually to participate with a utility, electrical, gas supplier. And then there is what's called an opt-out program, which automatically enrolls all residents unless they individually opt out of the program and stay with the supplier that they have. If a local government chooses to opt in, it must pass a resolution in support of the program, develop a plan, and hold two public meetings. If they consider and adopt an opt-out aggregation plan, that my understanding does require a referendum of the electorate, and it would go to for an election in May, or it could be May, could be November.
February, we'd have to probably get it
If we,
on board.
absolutely, if we went in May, we did that.
I like this, I mean, but I think the opt-in, anyhow, I'm sorry.
And I think, and I read a couple things, and I agree with you, Willie. One of the things interesting, there's maps that were provided. It seems that in terms of electric aggregation, really the northern third of the state seems to have, for whatever reason, taken the lead, if you will, in doing that. Some other counties, but this would be an opportunity for us to do that as well. Natural gas is much less spread throughout the state. If it did go on the May ballots, Councilman Paul's absolutely right, early February, something would have to get to 90 days before that. We need to get to the Board of Elections. I think it's important for us to hear from the PUCO. They are a third-party objective resource, and I think they will give us that information where we can make that decision. There are a number of consultants that have contacted us. I would like to pursue discussions with each of those. Really isn't a cost that the city bears. The consultants would do that for us and would ultimately get paid through the suppliers. So I would like to pursue those. I could double check with Gary. I guess it would somewhat go the path of what we did as for an electric broker here. We didn't take legislation, if I recall, and we were able to go forward with an administrative decision to go with one of those consultants or not. So we'll discuss that here, see how we can put it in the best position that we can to have that discussion January 6th, and then depending on council's decision whether to go forward or not.
Great. Ken?
Yes, I just like to caution a little bit. One of the companies that we have been able to maintain in Steubenville for quite some time has been AEP. Their income tax dollars are important to the community, so I think when we look at this, we need to look at what repercussions may come from. They've moved, their company out of other small towns at different times. They chose to stay here, so maybe we owe to them to have them involved in this discussion.
Thank you. Any members of the committee? Members of council? Okay, we'll be learning more about this January 6th. Mayor, at this point, I would make a motion to adjourn our utilities committee meeting. Thank you.